Hey, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Today we're talking about prototyping Figma. Now, I'm sure you can think of many times in your designs when you have a button. When you click that button, you want it to take you somewhere else or either change. And we're able to do that with prototyping. So stick around for this video and I hope you enjoy. Alright, so I've went ahead and created this iPhone 14 frame and I've created a component set with a main component and a variant that is slightly darker. We'll go ahead and drag an instance from our component set into our frame and run the present mode over here on the right. Alright, so in this present mode, we're given an area where we can kind of test our designs and we can give it to users and see how they interact with it. So as of now, this button, when we click it, or if we hold and click, nothing happens. It's because this button isn't interactive at all. So how do we make the button interactive? Well, we can do it with prototyping. Alright, so to make a prototype, you want to make sure you're in this prototype view at the top right here, so click that. Now hover over your starting component, or whatever component you want to start with, and then have it turn into something. So we have this starting component here, and since we're in the prototype view, we're given these white circles, so we're going to click one and drag it to the variant that we want it to turn into. So I want it to turn into this darker one right here. Now once I let go and put it on there, we're given this menu and we have these different options. So this option right here is going to be what triggers this to turn into that component. So we can do it when it's clicked, when it's dragged, hovered. We'll do while we're pressing it, it's going to turn into this darker one. And then we have some other options here which I don't really need to change any of these, but they just give you more control over this prototype. Now we've created this prototype and we know we have because we see this little white arrow here, and if I click on our starting component and look to the right, we see the interactions and we see our interaction right here. So we can go ahead and present our prototype and make sure it's working. Alright, so now when I click and hold this button, it should change into that variant. Alright, so I click and hold it and we see that it changes into the variant, so we know we've successfully made our first prototype. Alright, so moving on to the second example, we're going to be making a functional radio button. So I've created this component set right here with just a main component that's empty and then another component that has a dot in it. Now, in order to create a prototype, we're going to go back to our prototype mode over here and we're going to hover over our starting one. We're going to drag it into the checked radio button. Now that it's in here, we can just leave all these default because we want our trigger to be on tap. So when we tap it, it turns into this one. And let's go ahead and drag an instance into our frame. So throw it in here and let's present it. Alright, so we're in the mode. Let's go ahead and click this and see if it works. Alright, I clicked it. It worked. Now let's click it again. Okay, well, it's not going back, so we know we've done something wrong. So how do we fix this? Super simple. So let's go back to our design and let's look. Well, we see our prototype. We only have one arrow, so this one is turning into this one. So how do we make the checked go back to being unchecked? Well, all we gotta do is draw another prototype arrow from our checked back into our unchecked radio. Now we have two arrows, one going in and one going back out. So we've kind of created a little loop here with clicks. Now if we run it and we click our little radio button, we see it checks. I click it again, it unchecks. So it's a functional radio button. Alright, so for this final example, I want a button to be able to send us to a new screen. So let's go ahead and make that screen. So I can do iPhone 14 again, drag it here, and I want this button to send us to this screen here. So now I want to make sure we're in prototype mode, click this button, and I can drag this arrow onto this frame. And let's just add some text to this frame too so that we know that we're on our new screen here. So that works. We know we're on a new screen. I'm going to center this because it'll drive me crazy if I don't. So we're right here. And we can click on this arrow and make sure everything's set right. So when we tap it, this button here, we're going to navigate to this frame. And maybe instead of this being an instant, maybe I want to do an animate here. So maybe smart animate. And we could do, we could just do ease in right here. And let's go ahead and run this. Alright, so now when I hit this button, it should send us to a new screen. So let's click it. And it does. We see it eased into this screen right here. So cool. We have utilized prototypes in Figma. And we could go ahead and add another button here to send us back and forth or either to another screen. So it's super powerful stuff, because you think when you're making your designs and you're making wireframes, you can add all these arrows to create functioning prototypes that you can give to users and test them before you actually build them. So super powerful stuff, and that's how you build prototypes in Figma. Alright, so I think that covers everything on the basics of prototyping. Prototyping is super powerful, yet it's kind of straightforward. It can help us make these interactive components, and once we start implementing these into our designs, it's going to really help take us from a low fidelity design and work our way up to a high fidelity design. So super powerful stuff. Hopefully it helped you understand it, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll get back to you, and a like and subscribe is appreciated, and I'll see you next time.